Hi, everyone. My name is Stacy, and I am the marketing manager here at SQL Scientific. Thank you so much for joining us today for the last webinar in our 10.1 End of Support webinar series. This webinar today is What's New with BarTender 2021. A few housekeeping rules. Just to let you know, this meeting is being recorded, but you are all on mute. So even if you feel uncomfortable with being recorded while on mute, please log off. And anyone who attends or registered for this event will receive access to the presentation slides as well as the recording. And then we'll be having a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to submit your questions in the question pane. And I'll send out reminders throughout the webinar just to let you know that you could still submit a question if you have one. And then while you're at it, please feel free to opt in for our communications so you can know when our next webinar is happening and receive product updates as well as company updates featured in our quarterly newsletter. And then today's presenters are Mike Leo, and Mike Leo is our Senior Product Marketing Manager, as well as Manny Castro, who is our Solutions Consultant. And if you can't hear us, make sure you check your audio settings. Again, you are on mute, but you should still be able to hear us. Awesome. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Mike.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. And thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your day to attend our webinar today on BarTender 2021. So let's take a quick look at our agenda. First, I'll be, of course, covering what's new in our latest release, BarTender 2021. Manny will then take you through assessing your current BarTender installation, and then he'll continue by covering the best practices and tips for updating to BarTender 2021. And finally, as Stacy mentioned, we will answer as many questions as we can with the remaining time in our webinar. So let's get started. So for more than 30 years, we've been focused on helping our customers across many different industries and markets with BarTender. As you're hopefully familiar with, BarTender is a more powerful and easier to use labeling solution. It's a platform that is more adaptable and configurable to your needs, providing support and advanced capabilities for integrating with existing and future business systems. And it's all using a familiar, easy to use user interface or UI that offers more built-in and more advanced functionality throughout the entire labeling process, from design, integration, automation to management. But it's not just about our product though. We also provide a true multilingual global technical support team to support you. Our newest version of BarTender 2021, which was just released at the beginning of November, is available in 4 editions: Enterprise, Automation, Professional, and Starter. The Enterprise edition is focused on businesses that have regulatory or compliance needs and includes document management, centralized printing and management for their entire organization across multiple locations. For Automation edition, you receive all the different automation options, including combining forms, actions, and system integrations. Professional edition is primarily focused on connecting label designs to external databases and selecting or inputting data at print time through configurable data entry forms. The newest edition, Starter edition, is our entry-level offering for small businesses and departments for simple label creation and printing. So BarTender 2021 is compatible with the latest Windows versions and has a greatly simplified installation process that involves a single BarTender software program and a product license key code, or PKC, that you use to activate the BarTender software at the right edition level. And finally, the different BarTender 2021 editions are all licensed by the number of printers used. There are a couple of major reasons to update to BarTender 2021, as we've sort of covered throughout our 10.1 webinar update series. First and most important, 10.1 is at the end of life in December the 31st. This is literally in 2 weeks' time. You will no longer be able to get technical support for it after the end of this year. Also, 10.1 is only compatible with older versions of Windows 10 and that Windows PC could be a major security issue. Even if that PC is not directly connected to the internet, it could be a security risk by being on your company network. The second and best reason for updating the BarTender 2021 is that it provides a whole bunch of new features, which I'll sort of go through now. So BarTender 2021 will help you across the entire labeling lifecycle, from label design to label workflow and production, to system integration and system automation, and finally to printing. And it's all on a secure and reliable platform that you can easily manage. BarTender 2021 will allow you to decrease your cost of operation through faster implementation with fewer technical resources required. It will improve overall quality by providing tools to allow you to easily design commercial quality labels that meet your specific requirements. And our solutions look to reduce downtime with proven technology built with reliability and robustness in mind. And it also provides improved efficiency with a powerful yet extremely flexible and adaptable platform for integration, easily configured for your existing technology and processes. And finally, our solutions help you meet industry regulations and grow your business and revenues. I'll now cover the major 2021 features across the labeling lifecycle. The first step is label design. Creating high quality commercial label and document designs in BarTender is nothing new. However, since 10.1, we have introduced quite a few new features, including building on top of the 100% what you see and what you get interface for easily designing your labels with context-sensitive help to provide faster setup of integrations. You can now use intelligent templates to provide a wide variety of flexible label and document designs without having to create and maintain hundreds of separate documents. You can now select among 50+ different drawing shapes, resize, reshape, and color them in just about any way imaginable, or import your own. And there's full support for automatic text wrapping and adding of fields to text objects. There's also support for human readable text for barcodes, including 2D symbologies. BarTender 2021 introduces a new greatly improved color picker in Designer. You can now input hex values, select recently used and current colors, and use the new eyedropper feature to pick from an existing color displayed in your document. Plus, we now have full support for the Pantone color matching system. We've continued to update our over 400 pre-formatted, ready-to-use barcode components based on over 100 1D and 2D symbologies and more than a dozen barcode standards, including GS1. The easy-to-use data source wizard for creating GS1 compliant barcodes now supports the latest application identifiers in the latest version 20 specification. We also now have the phrase library. Built with our data builder application, we now offer a phrase library to easily build your own multilingual library of standard text phrases to easily add and track the accompanying translations. This new phrase library can then be accessed in Designer to easily populate your label designs. Included is an auto-translate feature, which will automatically translate a phrase as a starting point for a human translator to verify. You can also import and export the phrase library to CSV or TMX format files for even more accurate translations. TMX files, of course, are a common format typically used by translation services for professional translation. The next step is label workflow and production. The librarian application in our document management system is designed to provide a secure central repository for label templates and documents. Librarian lets a group of label designers, administrators, managers, and other users securely manage the centralized storage, development, and revision of BarTender documents, such as labels and other related files, increasing collaboration. Librarian is particularly valuable in highly regulated and/or secure environments, such as the medical, pharmaceutical, military, and chemical industries. With Librarian, organizations can create a centralized storage of all their BarTender documents and manage them. They can establish workflows with predefined reviewers and approvers. Users can check in and check out documents as they work on them. They have full revision control and an audit trail of the full file history. Many of our customers have found that a label-specific document management system really helps with increased label quality and allows their teams to work more efficiently and accurately together. For BarTender 2021, performance has also been significantly improved. And Librarian now works with our new workflow designer. It's accessed in the administration console and used to build workflows that run in Librarian. With its unique drag and drop user interface, you can easily create label design, approval, and deployment workflows. And it increases overall label document quality, as well as increasing team accountability and enabling end-to-end project tracking. You can define state, approval, and transition objects such as draft, review, and publish for each of your workflows. Multiple workflows can be created and saved to support all workflow processes across an entire organization. And you can track the status of label files from start to finish. And finally, document access can be secured via user permissions. Workflows from previous versions of BarTender can be upgraded and modified by our new workflow designer. BarTender 2021 also now includes a new redesigned print portal, which is now fully also integrated with Librarian, including its workflows. Once you've built a workflow using the workflow designer, you can take advantage of a streamlined approval workflow process with configurable email notifications to key team members like managers. They'll receive a notification email to review and or approve a new label design. They can then approve design from any web browser from any device, laptop, PC, or their iOS or Android smartphone or tablet through the new print portal. There's no need for them to install a separate copy of BarTender. Next, when integrating into business system and data sources, we've expanded our powerful integration capabilities with support for over 20 different databases and data file types, including major ERP and warehouse management systems such as SAP, Epicor, HighJump, Inform, Microsoft, NetSuite, and Sage, to now include support for cloud databases, including Excel Online, Google Sheets, JSON, and QuickBooks Online. Additionally, you can create database from scratch using tools found in BarTender. You can share a database file you create in BarTender with one or more documents. You could also create a database file and save it directly inside of a BarTender document. This embedded database table could then travel with the BarTender document without needing any external data sources. Now, in BarTender 2021, you have the capability to easily print multiple records within a single label or document using a table or object sourced from a database. This capability now allows you to more easily create documents like invoices, pack slips, and purchase orders. And finally, we now have the capability to write data back to most SQL-based databases. This can be leveraged many different ways. One common request has been to generate a serial number using BarTender, capture the value, and write it back to the existing database for traceability. In BarTender 2021, this process has been significantly improved and more intuitive to implement. For even tighter integration, we've also expanded our API support in our .NET SDK with new functions available in our Librarian API and the brand new Print Portal REST API to support all the new workflow and web printing functionality. Next, on the labeling lifecycle, we look at system automation, where you can integrate, automate, and improve the overall efficiency of your operations. BarTender's Integration Builder automation platform is even more full feature and still easier to use with many capabilities accessible via familiar UI. You can take your existing Commander task list and import it. All the SIM functionality is still available and is usually quick and easily to migrate integrations over. Integration Builder currently supports over 8 different integration methods. It supports 7 action types and over 70 different actions, and it provides 12 transforms that are simple to use and configure within the BarTender UI, as well as over 15 highly configurable form controls for simple data input and selection. You can now integrate via web service integration, where you can send the integration platform a post web service request to trigger a print job. You can build a database integration where the integration platform monitors the database and awaits a record to be updated or inserted. If you were previously using BatchMaker to create one-click batch printing process, you can easily take your existing batch file and convert it to our Process Builder file. Process Builder has nearly all the same capabilities as the Integration Builder. The only difference is that your Process Builder files are typically run manually. We've also made designing data entry forms at BarTender easier and more intuitive. We've introduced new ways to select database records at print time by leveraging live database views from a form. We made it easy to control printer selection directly from your data entry forms. We've also made it possible to create forms that show conditionally based on a user's previous form selection. And that is just the start. In the latest version of BarTender, we've also added some significant automation tools that can be applied to your own data entry forms. For example, you can now add buttons and hyperlinks. When a button or hyperlink is clicked, it can execute many different actions. Completing a form can also run actions now. These are just a few examples of how form actions can be leveraged. The number of configurable solutions that can be built with forms and form actions are nearly endless. And the final step in the labeling lifecycle is printing. As mentioned earlier, we have a new print portal. Print portal replaces the web print server in version 10.1. Print portal provides web browser-based printing in a simple UI from any device, PC, laptop, or iOS or Android device without having to install BarTender Designer. Print portal has been redesigned with a new, modern, more responsive user interface. It's significantly faster with streamlined functionality. In addition to printing from any browser or any device anywhere, anytime, is fully integrated with Librarian and supports its workflows. The new print portal also supports driverless printing with no printer drivers required on the server. It has direct support for print to PDF, and it also has now built-in authentication over SSL, allowing you to authenticate using your existing Windows user account. You can also set permissions or select who has access to a given folder in your print portal. It was pretty common practice to have multiple web print server instances in the past for different departments or use cases within your company. You can now have a single web page that has you log in and you only see what applies to you. And finally, you can change the color and company logo in your print portal to customize it. BarTender 2021 provides the administration console now for centralized management and control of your BarTender solution across your organization. It replaces Security Center in version 10.1. With the administration console, you can manage one or multiple locations. For example, there are new ways to manage printers across your network. For example, you can completely deny printing to select printers. You can also configure print redirection. If your primary printer is offline or in an error state, you can automatically redirect printing to an available printer. Our new printer licensing tools provide the capability to further manage BarTender's printer-based licensing. You can now create pool-based printer licensing for certain users, groups, or even departments within your company. There are new tools for deploying BarTender integrations to the local machine or to another available server in your network. We still have all the user management settings that were available in version 10.1. You may continue to manage BarTender permission levels for Active Directory users and groups across your company. And we also have tools to enable and capture electronic signatures and provide document encryption if you're working in a secure environment. To support your labeling and printing operations, security and reliability are required. We've added two new options for increasing BarTender license servability for our customers with mission-critical environments. First is enhanced backup license server failover. You can set up a main licensing server and a backup or secondary license server. When the main server is unavailable, BarTender clients will automatically connect to the secondary server to continue print services. The secondary server can be configured in the active-passive or active-active configuration. If you use the active-passive configuration within the secondary server not in production use and strictly as a backup, you can order the new redundant server licensing option at 50% off of standard list prices. The second configuration option provides a proven resilient architecture of 3 servers or a triad configuration. The 3 servers act like a single server. A single license is supported across all 3 servers for high reliability. As long as the server can communicate with one other server, printing can continue. The enhanced backup failover option also improved any BarTender installations currently using manual failover or Windows clustering for even higher availability. Note that these high availability options are available for Enterprise Edition customers with 50 or more printers and an active maintenance and support agreement. Well, that was a quick look at some of the major features and highlights for BarTender 2021. I'm going to now turn the presentation over to Manny to help you assess your current BarTender installation.
Thanks, Mike. A lot of good information. So as Mike mentioned, and as Stacy mentioned, thank you for joining us today. So today we're going to be covering assessing your BarTender deployment, and then later how to go about actually upgrading to BarTender 2021. So the first step is going to be all about assessing your current deployment. So we'll want to assess both the server and client side for what files we're using. So that's going to be the first step that we're going to take. In the case of labels, these will have .btw extensions, and they might be located on the server, on the clients themselves, and just in a Windows folder structure in Librarian. And these files, these BarTender files, are going to contain all our settings like our label sizes, the printers that we're using, any database connections, any forms, VB scripting, etc. So we'll also want to gather any integration files as well. This will include the settings for, in an example, for a file integration, what folder we're monitoring, rather, the extension of those files, the kind of data that might be in those files, and what the integration is to do with old trigger files. As an example, we'll also want to look for any database or images our labels have a dependency on. And while most of these locations are personal preferences, as in each user stores them wherever they feel is best, you might want to try the inetpub directory if you're using web print server, just your documents, that's another common one. Or another tip is when you're actually using, this only applies when you're integrating, of course, via Commander, but if you're using Commander, it's a good tip as well to use your trigger file, to go review your trigger files. It's really likely that the trigger files have the directory and the label names which print via your integration. Also, you'll want to know what server are you logging to. So do you have a central BarTender system database? Is it decentralized and you're logging to a local server, a SQL instance on each PC? So you'll want to identify all that, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on the SQL Server side as well. So we'll want to take all our findings and make a list as usual. So this is going to be a list of everything that we need to copy over effectively. And these will fall into three categories. One, they'll either be files and folders in a Windows directory somewhere. This means that they need to be copied and pasted or backed up once we identify those files. So that's going to be our BarTender labels, databases, images, etc. Two, it's our printers. So we need to assess what printers we're using, the naming convention we're following in Windows, and be prepared to install them on new servers and PCs if we're moving our installation. And three, lastly, it's our BarTender system database. So that'll be a SQL instance as mentioned, and we'll want to take note of the server and where this is hosted and the name of that database. If you're not sure where your system database is and you're on BarTender 10.1 and prior, you can go to your Start menu, BarTender, and the System Database wizard. And that dialog will tell you the information as far as what SQL server you're logging to and what database instance or what the name of that instance is called. And in 2016 and forward, remember that it's in your admin console. In regards to our BarTender system database, so we'll want to spend some time on that specifically. Remember that our system database will contain all our error logs, our print job logs, our files that are stored in Librarian, all the workflows and things like that that may go along with that. And we're going to follow the best practice, very similar to what we do in our pro services engagements. And we'll want to install, if we haven't already, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. So this tool will allow you to connect to a Microsoft SQL Server instance. It can be downloaded from Microsoft's website, and it is a free tool. And we're going to connect to the PC or server hosting our system database. We're simply going to click our database once the database folder has been expanded, go to Tasks, and hit Backup. We then want to make sure that we do a full backup and select where we want to save it. For reference, this should be a file with whatever you name it, of course, but it should have a .bak extension. That's going to be later what we import into our new BarTender system database. And once we back up that file and it exists, we'll want to add it to our list. You may also note that BarTender has a built-in backup and restore function. We'll still want to use Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio instead, as that tool is designed for more of a disaster recovery scenario, so where we're exporting and importing to the same version of BarTender and only need the logs migrated. As we need the full system database, including the librarian files, we're going to follow these best practices and use SQL Server Management Studio. Note that if you're using a central SQL server hosted on a non-BarTender PC, which is pretty common for our bigger customers, you can just duplicate the system database and then connect to the duplicate, whatever you may name that, from BarTender 2021. And before we actually go through the update process itself, let's cover some items to know on a sort of per BarTender version basis. So starting with BarTender 10.1 and prior, here are some items to be aware of, or FYIs, I guess. You'll note that per Mike's earlier slide, all BarTender editions, including professional, are now licensed by printer, which would be different than what you're accustomed to in 10.1 and prior if you're coming from a, say, professional license. The new licensing service that replaces the Siegel license server is not backwards compatible with BarTender 10.1 and prior instances. We'll review in our best practices section when we actually go through how to upgrade and all that, how to handle this. BarTender 2021 is now available in 32-bit and 64-bit. So usually for anything that's running any sort of integration, you will need to install the BarTender instance that matches the architecture of your operating system. WebPrint server has been completely redesigned and replaced by Print Portal. And lastly, I would say a very significant item to take note on, Commander has been replaced with a new integration platform, a much more powerful platform, I should add. You can use your Commander task list in this new integration platform, though there is an import process that converts it from a task list to the new integration platform format. Moving on to BarTender 2016, things get a little easier. So there's still that change in editions, all editions being licensed by printer now to note. The same thing applies as well. The new license service is not compatible with BarTender 2016. Once again, we'll cover how to handle that in our best practices section. And lastly, note that the new installer of BarTender 2021 is greatly simplified, and most applications are now installed when taking the default. It's actually just 2 or 3 clicks before you're installing the software now. And lastly, we get to BarTender 2019. Of course, this is the easiest version to upgrade from. It has the same licensing as BarTender 2021, and also the new licensing service is backwards compatible, meaning you can leave any instance of BarTender 2019 running and put up a new BarTender 2021 instance to test with, and they can share the same license service. So moving on, we'll go through kind of our best practices and how we go about moving things over up to BarTender 2021. So the first thing that we'll want to do when upgrading is we suggest following these best practices of setting up a new test environment. So we're trying to get away from the scenario where we take down a tested production system and then replace it with an untested one. As with most BarTender deployments, there are a lot of moving parts, especially outside of BarTender at the network, application, and hardware level as well, of course. We'll want to take note that each BarTender deployment is actually a little different compared to others out there. And we want to make sure that all these moving pieces, not just BarTender, are tested and configured correctly. This especially applies if you're running any sort of integration. We essentially want to do a systems check and validate our dev environment, so to speak, before we take down any prod system. So we need to make sure we have the correct installer. We need, as mentioned a few slides back, we need to make sure the architecture of the BarTender installer matches our OS if we're going to be doing any kind of integrating. We then want to make sure that we go to our Siegel Scientific website and get the latest build of BarTender, just so that you have the latest patch. As we go through the installation, we'll immediately come across a decision to make. So we now have to activate. So if you've purchased a new BarTender installation or key, I should say, outright, go ahead and just activate, of course. If you're upgrading from a version of BarTender that has maintenance, you can contact your sales rep for a trial. Remember that if you're coming from a BarTender 2019 license, your license is backwards compatible, and you can just install BarTender 2021 and activate, assuming you have maintenance. And you're actually, at that point, ready to test. Then we want to move on to installing our print drivers. Remember, for the most seamless upgrade, not to be repetitive, but especially when integrating, we don't have to, but we usually want to follow the same naming convention that our printers had on the old instance, and this will make it, just less dev changes with in whatever business system we're integrating with. We can then go ahead and copy over all our commander task lists, our bartender labels, our databases, etc. We'll want to pay attention to the folder structure. So depending on your scenario, nesting files in a different folder structure directory will result in remapping and changes needed to your configuration. This could be something as simple like as a database connection on a label, a scan directory in your integration platform, or something similar. One last thing as well. So we'll want to pay attention or know what kind of user you'll be using to connect to either the new or the migrated BarTender system database. From my experience, I usually suggest SQL users, but note that regardless if you use a SQL or Windows user, you will need to have access to the BarTender system database instance and that specific SQL instance that's hosting it. Once our software is installed and activated, printers are installed, and our files are copied over, we want to bring over our backed up system database. For this, once again, we'll be using SQL Server Management Studio, either the same instance from the client side or install it again on the server, whichever you prefer. And we'll want to connect to the server that's going to be hosting our BarTender system database instance. We then want to navigate to the databases folder and right-click. We're going to click Restore Database and restore or import the full backup that we did from a previous version. You're going to be looking once again for that .bak file. Once again, this applies to any recent version of BarTender 10.1 and prior. And then one thing to note as well is once you make your first initial connection, you might be prompted to update the versioning of the BarTender system database, which is a one-time thing and it is expected and safe to do. And going along with that, once that's complete, we can then go to all our PCs that are going to be connecting to the system database. Remember that if it is not local, it being the SQL Server instance is not local to that PC, the Automation Edition won't be able to connect to it, and you will need the Enterprise Edition for a central BarTender system database. We're then going to open the admin console, select the system database option on the left, click on the blue letters on the right that say System Database Wizard. So this is from all the clients, right? You're going to want to select to connect to that existing BarTender system database. You want to kind of make sure that you don't create another one on each one of these clients if the objective is to have a deployment with a central BarTender system database. And then last, just to kind of wrap things up, a few things to note. So remember, you can always just start a new fresh log, and you can leave your existing prod instance as is. You don't have to migrate your system database if you don't want any of your files or logs brought over, or that just doesn't apply. Note that you will need to connect to the system database following the process mentioned on this slide, not from SQL Server Management Studio on this slide, from all your BarTender clients. Or the alternative to that is to build a silent install connect and string and deploy it that way. Lastly, there are a lot of BarTender deployments, and each one is somewhat unique. If you feel you can't take this on, feel free to reach out to your BarTender reseller or directly to Siegel Scientific to work with our pro services team, which I'm a part of. We're here to help. And with that, thanks as always, and I hand it back off to Mike.
Awesome. Thank you, Manny. That was a great detailed look at how you can upgrade BarTender 2021. So let me, earlier I went through a highlight of the major new capabilities available in BarTender 2021. So let me recap things before we open it up for questions. As mentioned, BarTender 2021 will help you across the labeling lifecycle from label design to label workflow and production, to system integration and system automation, and finally to printing, all on a secure and reliable platform that you can easily manage. BarTender 2021 will allow you to decrease your cost of operations through faster implementations with fewer technical resources required. BarTender 2021 will improve quality by providing tools to allow you to easily design commercial quality labels that meet your specific requirements. and it helps reduce downtime with proven technology built with reliability and robustness in mind. And BarTender 2021 will also help to improve overall efficiency with a powerful yet extremely flexible and adaptable platform for integrations, easily configured for your existing technology and future technologies. And finally, BarTender 2021 can help you meet industry regulations and help grow your business and revenues overall. What are the next steps to take? We recommend contacting us or your local partner reseller to see how you can update the BarTender 2021. You can also download BarTender 2021, try it out from our website, seagulscientific.com. If you need to renew your maintenance and support, you can also contact us or your local partner reseller. Make sure to ask about our business stability and customer loyalty promotions for our maintenance and support packages. These promotions, similar to support for 10.1, all end at the end of this year, December 31st. You can also access the customer portal to get an estimate or quote for your maintenance and support renewal. And if you need extra technical assistance or help, as Manny mentioned, our professional services team is also available. Note that many of our partner resellers also have technical staff available to help you with an update. And finally, you can always visit the BarTender community website. We have a dedicated page and section for updating from 10.1 to BarTender 2021, including tips, videos, documentation, and technical documents, as well as an archive of all the 10.1 update webinars that we've been running this year, starting back in July. And you can watch this webinar as well as any of those other ones through links in the community website. For technical resources and support, you can go to our support site. If you're new to BarTender, check out the resources under Getting Started. For existing and new users, you can also find more information on how to update the BarTender 2021. And then, as mentioned, you can also access our community forums and support articles from the support site here. And finally, if you're stuck, you can always contact technical support if you need more specific help. And with additional resources you can take a look at within each edition product page on our main website, seagulscientific.com, we have a new resources tab under each edition. For example, what I'm showing here is Enterprise, that links to over 50 documents, depending on the particular edition that you're interested in. For each edition, you can find the What's New guide for all the BarTender 2021 enhancements. As I mentioned, I basically covered sort of the highlights, but there's a ton of new enhancements and features that are available on BarTender 2021 that I didn't get a chance to discuss. And there's a What's New guide that will cover all these things. There's installation guides, case studies, brochures, and over 33 technical documents on BarTender 2021. So with that, thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to attend this 10.1 update webinar on how to update the BarTender 2021. Thank you also if you've been with us through this entire series for updating from BarTender 10.1. Again, thank you for your time and attention. And so at this time, we'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Manny, so much. We are receiving questions, but if you haven't submitted a question, please go ahead and submit one. We have some time, and we're just going to go right into it with the ones that have been submitted. So the first question we have is, can you provide more detail on the driverless printing? Does this mean we no longer have to download and install the BarTender specific printer drivers?
Correct. Yeah, I believe that was in regards to Mike's print portal slide. Yeah, so exactly. So you are now able to print to a client-side printer with just the browser add-on installed or running, and not need to configure the actual print driver on the server side, which was a requirement prior.
Awesome. The next question we have is, can BarTender API be called from other web apps to print specific labels with the request containing variable data to be printed?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, as kind of time goes on, we're moving more and more away from the traditional file integrations, things like that. And most integrations are now more leveraging the web API or web service requests are being submitted to the BarTender API.
Awesome. And then we have a question here. I have BarTender 10.1 running, BarTender 2019 running on a test server, and I prefer to update right away to 2021. Some departments already use BarTender 2019. Can I import both databases?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to combine the databases in that scenario. I would suggest taking probably the new instance that has less BarTender files and less logs, and pulling out or copying the BarTender files and submitting them to the old instance, and then bringing up the old instance up to BarTender 2021. There's not going to be a great way to combine those in that scenario, though.
Awesome. And then another question we have is, are there any performance improvements for printing to USB attached printers with the web print service?
I'm assuming, well, so I'm assuming that's in general, yes. There's all new drivers that have come out. Print Portal has much better performance with its redesign, especially when coming from web print server. Integration Builder is always getting better. The integration platform rather is always getting better as well. So that question can kind of be in regards to a few different scenarios, but regardless, if you're doing integration printing, print portal printing, you should see an improvement on performance.
Awesome. And then another question we have, can one create a label with 5 to 7 different variable fields?
I would want to know the context of that, but at face value, absolutely. And I would say most labels even have more than that. So sure.
Awesome. And let's see, we have another question. Is the BarTender portal using the printers available from the browser? Do the printer drivers need to be installed on the system using the portal?
It depends on the configuration that you opt in for. You can do the driverless printing that we talked about earlier, where you do need the driver installed on the client side, but not on the server side. You can do server side printing, which is pretty popular, where you don't need a client side driver, but you do need a server side driver, or you can even just do PDF printing, right? So remember that that's still an option as well. It just depends on your configuration, though, and what you how you configure it and what you opt in for. So it could go either way, whichever is most benefit to your scenario.
Another question we have, can BarTender create FNSQ labels or only through Amazon? If we need labels from Amazon, can it go through BarTender?
So that depends on where we need to get the data from. It should be possible to interact with that web API. I'm assuming that it definitely will be something custom, right? But I'm assuming that it's something in regards to a label being requested, a web API responding with a string of data, and us printing that label. Now that's possible, but it's a good pro services engagement.
Awesome. And does the new version support SQL Server Cloud?
From a label standpoint, you can connect to an Azure database instance and pull data in. From the context of the BarTender system database, I believe it still has to be on-prem. So we're still just dealing with the regular SQL Server instance. When you go through the wizard, through the BarTender system database wizard, that is specifically, you have to be able to browse to or see the SQL instance on your network.
And this is a follow-up question from a question received regarding variable fields. And so this is asking, with the multi-variable fields, can they be on a label or must it be designed as a tag?
We'd really need context on that question. I think some nomenclatures are being used that don't align to like what I'm used to in terms of what that means in BarTender. From just at a high level, BarTender, just nothing has changed in the terms of we can process a trigger file coming in, or we can pull data from a database, we can receive a web service request coming in, and those can be different variables that can either select your printer, select your label, call barcodes, call images, call text objects on your label, and you can map all those out. So yes, you can pass data, and you can call different labels, and you can have, really there's not a theoretical limit, but you can have those 5 to 7 different variable fields within a single object or all on their own.
Gotcha. And also too, we'll follow up with that person offline just so we can provide some extra clarity. But another question we have is from 10.1 automation. Should we upgrade to 2021 automation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're in a scenario where if you have maintenance, you're not going to have support in 2 weeks here. So I would definitely suggest doing that. So once again, you'll want to put up an instance of BarTender 2021, start migrating your files over, make your list per our best practice, import all your integrations, test that out, and then eventually decommission 10.1 when 2021 is validated.
Awesome. And we have time for a few more questions. So if you have any, please go ahead and submit them. But another question we have is, how do I test BarTender 2021?
So it depends on what version you're coming from. So if you are coming from 2016, 10.1, or prior, what you'll want to do, and assuming you have maintenance, what you'll want to do is you'll want to contact your sales rep for a trial key for, even if you don't have maintenance, contact your sales rep for a trial key for BarTender 2021. Remember that if you have 2019 and you have maintenance, that there is backwards compatibility, and what you can do is you can just not on the same PC, but you can allocate another PC or server, install BarTender 2021, and the 19 and 21 instance can share a license.
Okay. And another question we have here is, what edition does the print portal work with?
That's Enterprise Edition. So all that good stuff about Print Portal, Librarian, the new workflow that Mike talked about, that's all in regards to the Enterprise Edition.
Awesome. All right, and we have time to answer one more question online, or one more question here online, and then if you still have a question, of course, go ahead and submit it, and we'll follow up with you via offline. But a question we have is, can we use the same license key from 10.1 to activate to BarTender 2021?
It depends on the stat. You'll more than likely need a new license key. So what I would just suggest on that one is contact your sales rep and see if you have maintenance and see what specific instructions you get for your scenario. And that's how I would go about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for attending. As we mentioned before, this is the last webinar in our 10.1 End of Support series. If you have any questions about updating, like Manny and Mike have mentioned, please feel free to reach out to our support and pro services team, as well as opt into our communication so you can learn more about our upcoming webinar and educational training opportunities. We do have a webinar tomorrow. And it's getting started with BarTender, so you can head to our website to register. And we'll see you in 2021. We hope you all have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay safe.